The envelope felt heavier than $30,000 should. 3 years of overtime shifts, weekend tutoring, and living on instant noodles, all condensed into a bank check that would finally make my dream wedding possible. Table for 4? The hostess at Marcelo's smiled, unaware she was about to witness a family crime in progress. Yes, the Williams reservation, my mother said, already scanning the wine list for the most expensive bottles. Behind her, my father shuffled nervously, and my brother Dylan slouched in ripped jeans that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I'd chosen Marcelo's specifically, public, upscale, with plenty of witnesses. After 26 years as the responsible daughter, I'd learned that family discussions went better with accountability. So, Mom began after ordering a $200 bottle of Cabernet. Tell us about this wedding fund. I pulled out the envelope, keeping it firmly in my hands. 30,000. Every penny saved legitimately. Marcus and I can finally set a date. 30,000? Dylan perked up for the first time, his bloodshot eyes focusing. Damn, sis. That's real money. For a wedding? Mom scoffed. Seems excessive. Mine cost $800. In 1987, I reminded her. This covers venue, catering, photography. About that, Dad interrupted, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. We need to discuss Dylan's situation. There it was. The real reason for this dinner. What situation? I asked, though the knot in my stomach already knew. Dylan couldn't meet my eyes. I got arrested. Again. This time's different. Armed robbery, Dad said quietly. He was driving the getaway car. The restaurant noise faded to white static. I carefully placed the envelope back in my purse, zipping it shut. No, I said simply. You haven't heard the bail amount, Mom interjected. 25,000. The lawyer needs another 5 for retainer. 30,000 total. What a coincidence. Family helps family, she snapped, loud enough that nearby diners glanced over. Your brother needs you. My brother needs consequences. Dylan slammed his fist on the table. Easy for you to say. Perfect Lauren with her perfect job and perfect fiancé. You don't know what it's like. To work. To save money. To not commit felonies. I stood, grabbing my purse. You're right. I don't. Dad caught my wrist. Lauren, please. If he stays in jail, he'll lose his job. What job? The one he got fired from for stealing inventory? Or the one before that for showing up high? This is different. If he has a record, he already has a record. DUI, possession, shoplifting. How many times have you bailed him out? How many lawyers have you paid for? That's not the point, Mom hissed. Sit down. People are staring. Good. Maybe witnesses will stop you from what you're planning. But I sat. Not because she told me to, but because I needed them to understand. Dylan, I said, turning to my brother. Tell me the truth. Were you just driving? He shifted uncomfortably. I mean, yeah, but you knew about the robbery. You planned it together. You waited outside with the engine running while someone terrorized a convenience store clerk making minimum wage. Nobody got hurt. The clerk has PTSD. She can't work nights anymore. Her daughter wrote a victim impact statement about how her mom wakes up screaming. Silence. Dylan found his napkin fascinating. How do you know that? Dad asked. Because I'm the prosecutor assigned to his case. The wine glass slipped from Mom's hand, shattering on the tile floor. Red wine spread like blood across the white tablecloth. You're what? Dylan's face went pale. Assistant District Attorney Lauren Williams. Didn't you wonder why I insisted on dinner in public? Why I've been recording this conversation? I placed my phone on the table, the recording app clearly visible. I recused myself the moment I saw your name, but I've been following the case. You're bluffing, Mom stammered. You can't prosecute family. I'm not. ADA Morrison has the case. But I know every detail, including the security footage showing Dylan wasn't just the driver. He went in first to case the place. My brother's hands shook. They said there were no cameras. There weren't. Until last month when the owner installed them after the 3rd robbery this year. Guess you should have done better reconnaissance. Lauren, Dad's voice broke. He's your brother. And that clerk was someone's mother. That store owner is someone's father trying to make ends meet. I pulled out the envelope, setting it on the clean part of the table. You want this? Take it. But know that every dollar comes with a choice. What choice? Mom reached for it. I covered it with my hand. If you take this money, I'm done. No wedding invitation. No holidays. No relationship. You choose him over me one more time, and I choose myself over all of you. That's manipulation. Dylan shouted. No, that's boundaries. Something this family has never understood. I looked at each of them. Do you know why I became a prosecutor? Because I spent 18 years watching you enable him. Every crime excused. Every victim blamed. Every consequence avoided because family helps family. We were protecting him, Mom said weakly. From what? Growth. Accountability. The chance to become a decent human being. I laughed bitterly. You weren't protecting him. You were protecting yourselves from admitting you failed as parents. How dare you? $30,000 vanished. That's what'll happen if I give this to you. Just like the $10,000 from my college fund that disappeared when Dylan needed rehab. The $5,000 from my car savings when he crashed his third vehicle. The bonds grandma left me that somehow paid for his lawyer when he was 19. We paid you back. When? With what? More promises? More guilt trips about family loyalty. The waiter approached cautiously, clearly sensing the tension. Is everything all right? Perfect, I said, standing again. Just a family discussion about armed robbery and $30,000. He retreated quickly. At his trial, Judge Walker smiled. I said, watching Dylan process the name. Remember Judge Walker? From mock trial in high school? The one who wrote my law school recommendation? The one whose daughter is my best friend. Sarah's dad is the judge? Dylan's voice cracked. Small world, isn't it? Turns out, when you commit crimes in the county where your sister practices law, you might encounter familiar faces. I picked up the envelope. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay in jail until trial. You're going to plead guilty because you are guilty. You're going to serve your time and hopefully learn something. Lauren, please, Dad begged. The family reputation is already destroyed. Do you think people don't know about Dylan? Do you think my colleagues don't whisper about the ADA with the criminal brother? I've worked twice as hard for half the respect because of him. Mom grabbed the envelope suddenly, tearing it open. The check fluttered to the wine-stained table. We're taking this, she declared. For Dylan's lawyer. You can't stop us. I smiled sadly. Actually, I can. I pulled out my phone, dialing quickly. Hi, yes, this is Lauren Williams. I need to report an attempted theft at Marcelo's restaurant. My family is trying to take a check from my purse without permission. You wouldn't, Mom gasped. Table 12. Yes, I'll wait. She threw the check at me. Take it. Take your precious money. It was never about the money, I said, picking up the damp check. It was about finally being valued as much as the family fuck-up. 2 officers arrived within minutes, the benefits of dining 3 blocks from the precinct. I knew them both from court. Miss Williams, Officer Martinez nodded. Is there a problem? No problem, I said calmly. Just a family disagreement about boundaries. We're done here. I left cash for the wine and walked out, leaving my family to explain to the officers why they'd attempted to take $30,000 from a prosecutor. Asterisk. The trial came 4 months later. I sat in the gallery, far from my family, watching ADA Morrison systematically destroy Dylan's defense. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage, fingerprints, his co-defendant's testimony in exchange for a plea deal. Counselor Williams, nice to see you, Judge Walker had said when I'd entered. Not a smile exactly. Judges rarely smiled in court, but a warmth that everyone noticed. M.Y. Brother's face went white, would be an understatement. Dylan looked like he'd seen a ghost. The color drained so fast the bailiff stepped closer, concerned he might faint. Throughout the trial, Dylan kept glancing between Judge Walker and me, finally understanding the network he'd dismissed all our lives. Every time I'd studied instead of partying. Every internship he'd mocked. Every connection I'd built through merit rather than nepotism. They all led to this moment. The verdict was guilty on all counts. During sentencing, Judge Walker was fair but firm. Mr. Williams, he said, looking over his glasses, you come from a family of means and opportunity. Your sister sits in this courtroom as a testament to what's possible with hard work and integrity. Yet you chose a different path. Mom sobbed theatrically. Dad stared at his hands. I felt nothing but relief. 7 years, Judge Walker announced, with possibility of parole in 4 with good behavior. As they led Dylan away, he looked at me one last time. Not with anger or blame, but with something like understanding. Maybe prison would teach him what family protection never could. That actions have consequences. Outside the courthouse, my parents waited by my car. 7 years, Mom said accusingly. Your brother got 7 years, and you just sat there. He got justice. The same justice any armed robber would receive. You could have helped. Talked to the judge, the prosecutor. That would be corruption. But you don't understand that, do you? You still think family connections should override law. Dad spoke quietly. What happens now? Now I use my $30,000 for my wedding. You're not invited. I'll visit Dylan in prison because despite everything, I love him. But you too. I looked at them steadily. You made your choice at Marcello's. You chose enabling over accountability. Guilt over growth. Him over me. We're your parents. Biologically, yes. But parents protect all their children, not just the broken one. Parents celebrate successes equally, not just bail out failures. Parents teach consequences, not avoid them. I got in my car, rolling down the window for one last thing. Dylan will be okay. Prison has education programs, counseling, structure. Everything you never gave him. Maybe in 7 years, he'll be the man he could have been. And us? Mom asked, tears finally real. You have each other. And 26 years of practice pretending I don't exist. Should be easy to continue. I drove away, leaving them in front of the courthouse where justice had finally been served. My phone rang, Marcus, wondering about wedding venues. How's your day? He asked, unaware of the morning's drama. Good, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. I finally got closure on a $30,000 investment. The wedding fund is ready? More than ready. It's free and clear. That night, I sat with Sarah Walker, my best friend since law school, sharing wine and war stories. My dad said Dylan looked terrified, she mentioned carefully. He was. Reality has that effect on people who've avoided it for 24 years. And your parents made their choice. I'm done being the family ATM and emotional support system, while Dylan gets all the actual support. Good for you. Though Mom wants to know if they're really not invited to the wedding. Judge Walker's wife had always been kind to me, treating me like the daughter Sarah never had. They're not. But your family? Front row. We are your family, Sarah said simply. The one you chose. The one that chose you back. She was right. Family isn't about blood or obligation or enabling destructive behavior. It's about mutual respect, shared values, and showing up for each other's triumphs as much as tragedies. My $30,000 remained intact, earning interest in an account my family couldn't access. But its real value wasn't monetary. It was the price of discovering who truly valued me versus my wallet. Dylan would serve his time. My parents would live with their choices. And I would have a beautiful wedding surrounded by people who saw me as more than a resource to exploit. Family helps family, Mom had said. She was right, which is why I'd help Dylan face justice and myself find freedom. Sometimes the greatest help is refusing to help at all. The wedding would be perfect. Not because of the $30,000, but because every guest would be there for love, not obligation. Every smile would be genuine, not forced. Every relationship would be reciprocal, not transactional. And if Dylan behaved himself, maybe he'd get a wedding photo in his cell. A reminder that there was life after consequences, family after boundaries, and love after tough choices. But Mom and Dad? They'd get what they'd always given me. Nothing but the knowledge that somewhere, the daughter they'd never valued was living her best life. With her $30,000 and her hard-won freedom intact. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned. The boardroom reeked of desperation and expensive cologne. I sat in the corner, invisible as always, sketching in my notebook while my father's company died around him. Revenue is down 40%, CFO Martin Blackwood announced, his voice cutting through the murmur of worried voices. If we don't make drastic cuts, Hartwell Industries won't survive the quarter. I captured his expression in quick strokes. The satisfied gleam in his eyes, the barely suppressed smile. He'd been waiting for this moment, circling my father's company like a vulture for years. Then we cut, board member Harrison Cross said, loosening his tie. Start with the art department. Complete waste of money. My pencil paused. The art department I'd built from nothing. The team that had redesigned the company's entire brand identity, increasing market visibility by 200%. Not that anyone here knew I'd led that project. To them, I was just Richard Hartwell's disappointment of a daughter, playing with colors while real business people made real decisions. All non-essential personnel, another board member agreed. Marketing can go too. We'll outsource. What about family positions? Blackwood asked, his eyes sliding to where I sat. No sacred cows in a crisis. The room chuckled. My father's jaw tightened, but he nodded. If necessary. Fire your own daughter if you have to, Harrison laughed, gesturing toward me. What does she even do here? Doodle. The laughter that followed was ugly, harsh. I kept sketching, adding shadows to Blackwood's portrait, turning his face into the grotesque mask it really was. Luna contributes. My father started weakly. To overhead, Blackwood finished. How much are we paying her to play artist? 60,000? 70. 42, I said quietly, not looking up from my sketchbook. The room turned to stare, as if surprised I could speak. 42,000, I repeated, adding detail to Harrison's weak chin in my sketch. Below market rate for a creative director. Though I suppose you'd have to understand what a creative director does to know that. Creative director? Harrison scoffed. Is that what we're calling nepotism now? I smiled, still sketching. It's what we call the person who rebranded this company from a dying industrial dinosaur into a modern tech manufacturer. But please, continue discussing how to destroy the company. I'm getting wonderful material for my next series on corporate incompetence. Richard, Blackwood's voice was ice. Perhaps your daughter should wait outside while the adults handle this. My father looked at me, that familiar mixture of embarrassment and frustration in his eyes. Luna, maybe. Of course. I closed my sketchbook and stood. Wouldn't want reality intruding on your fantasy of saving the company by gutting it. I left, but not before catching Blackwood's satisfied smirk. He thought he'd won. They all did. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone and typed a single message to my lawyer. They took the bait. Proceed. You see, what the board didn't know, what my father had never bothered to learn, was that his failed artist daughter had been very, very busy. 5 years ago, when I'd first joined the company with my useless art degree, I'd watched him make deal after deal, always choosing the flashy option over the smart one. I'd designed campaigns that worked, only to see them scrapped for whatever Blackwood's golf buddy was selling. I'd proposed cost-saving measures, only to be patted on the head and told to stick to my pictures. So I'd started buying shares. Quietly, anonymously, every painting I sold, and they sold for considerably more than anyone in that boardroom imagined, went into acquiring stock. Every freelance project, every commission, every gallery show built my portfolio. While they laughed at the artist playing at business, I was becoming their largest shareholder. An hour later, my phone buzzed. It's done. You now own 60% of Hartwell Industries. I walked back to the boardroom and knocked. The conversation inside stopped. Luna, my father sighed as I entered. We're not finished. Actually, you are. I moved to the windows, studying the city below. Mr. Blackwood, you were saying something about layoffs? The decision's been made. We start with your department. No, he blinked. Excuse me? No layoffs. No cuts. No fire sale to your brother-in-law's company. I turned from the window. In fact, you're done here. Richard, Blackwood turned to my father. Control your daughter. He can't. I pulled out my phone and forwarded the confirmation to the room's main screen. As of 43 minutes ago, I own 60% of Hartwell Industries, which means I control the board, which means you're fired. The silence was absolute. Then chaos. This is a joke. Impossible. Richard, what is she? My father stared at the screen, at the legal documents bearing my name, my real name, not the nickname he'd saddled me with. Lunar Eclipse LLC? My holding company. I smiled. You never did ask why I insisted on being paid as a contractor rather than an employee. Made the anonymity easier. You're the investor? Harrison's face had gone gray. You're the one who's been buying up shares for 3 years? For years. And yes. But how? Your salary. $42,000 a year from here. Plus $200,000 from gallery sales. Plus another $300,000 from corporate commissions. Plus consulting fees from the 3 Fortune 500 companies who actually value good design. I opened my sketchbook, showing them the portraits I'd drawn during their meeting. These will probably fetch $50,000 at my next show. Portraits of corporate greed are very popular right now. This is illegal, Blackwood sputtered. Insider trading is when someone trades on non-public information. Everything I used was publicly available. You just had to pay attention. For instance, did you know your brother-in-law's company, the one you've been steering contracts to, has been under federal investigation for 6 months? His face went white. Or that Harrison here has been shorting our stock while voting for decisions he knew would tank the price. Harrison stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to. Sit down. My voice carried the authority of ownership now. We're not done. He sat. I looked at my father, who seemed to have aged a decade in minutes. Did you know they've been planning this for 2 years? The systematic devaluation of company assets, the bad deals, the leaked information to competitors? They wanted to buy Hartwell Industries for pennies on the dollar. I trusted them, he whispered, while mocking your daughter, the one person who actually tried to save your company. I turned to the board. Effective immediately, Blackwood and Harrison are terminated. Security is already waiting outside. The rest of you have a choice. Resign now with a standard severance, or stay and face investigation for your part in this scheme. Within minutes, half the board filed out. Only my father and 2 others remained. The ones who'd always been uncomfortable with Blackwood's tactics but too weak to oppose him. Luna, my father started. Sasha, I corrected. Luna was your pet name, your way of making me smaller, softer, less threatening. My name is Sasha. Sasha. He said it like a foreign word. Why didn't you tell me? When? When you introduced me as your artistic daughter at corporate events. When you laughed along as they called my department a hobby. When you were ready to fire me to appease them? I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant it every time you dismissed my ideas. Every time you chose their vision over mine. Every time you treated art as something frivolous instead of the backbone of modern marketing. I pulled up a presentation on the screen. This is my plan for Hartwell Industries. We pivot fully into sustainable technology. We hire the diverse talent Blackwood kept out. We implement the strategies I've been proposing for 5 years. We save this company by making it worth saving. And me? His voice was small. You have a choice. Step down as CEO and take an advisory role, or fight me and lose. I met his eyes. I don't want to destroy you, Dad. But I won't let you destroy what I've built either. What you've built. This is my company. Was your company. You gave it away piece by piece to men who flattered your ego while robbing you blind. I bought it back with paintings you called doodles and ideas you called naive. He slumped in his chair. The art department stays? The art department expands. Marketing expands. R&D expands. We create instead of cutting. We build instead of burning. And if I refuse, then I call a shareholder meeting tomorrow and vote you out entirely. Your choice. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, you really have the money to save us? I have more than money. I have vision. I have connections in industries you've ignored. I have a generation of consumers you've never bothered to understand. I have everything you need, I always did. You just had to see it. I see it now. Because I bought your attention. Because power is the only language you speak. I gathered my things. I'll give you 24 hours to decide. Step down gracefully, or be pushed out publicly. Either way, Hartwell Industries survives. You just have to decide if you'll be part of its future. I left him there, in the boardroom where he'd built his empire and nearly lost it. Outside, security was escorting Blackwood and Harrison out, their boxes of belongings clutched like life preservers. You won't get away with this, Blackwood hissed as I passed. I already have. I held up my sketchbook. Thanks for the inspiration. This exhibition will be my best yet. That night, my phone rang. Dad, I'll step down, he said without preamble. But I have conditions. You're not in a position to negotiate. I know. These aren't demands. Requests. From a father who finally sees his daughter. I waited. Teach me, he said. Show me what I missed. Help me understand how I was so blind. Why? Because you're right. I don't speak art or vision or anything beyond quarterly reports. But you do. And you speak business now too. You're everything I wanted in a successor. I was just too stupid to see it. This isn't a movie, Dad. You don't get redemption because you asked nicely. I know, but maybe I can earn it. The way you earned this. Slowly. Quietly. Proving myself when no one's watching. I considered it. You'll start in the art department. Entry level. $42,000 a year. Luna. Sasha. That's less than you thought I was worth. Yes. Take it or leave it. A long pause. I'll take it. Monday. 8 a.m. Don't be late. I hung up and looked at my latest painting. A boardroom full of vultures. Unaware that the mouse in the corner had become a lion. It would fetch a good price. Everything I painted did now. But this one I'd keep. A reminder that power isn't inherited or given. It's taken one brushstroke at a time, by those willing to see value where others see only decoration. The failed artist had become the owner. The doodler had become the boss. And the board that had laughed at firing me? They'd have to find new jobs. I heard the art world was hiring. Maybe they'd learn to appreciate creativity when they were the ones begging for a chance to prove their worth. Probably not. But then again, I'd always been better at seeing potential than they were. That's what made me an artist. And now it's what made me their boss. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.